Moving on to the class Cyclostomata, the class of the division Anata, the jawless vertebrates, the earliest vertebrates, the first vertebrates and the jawless vertebrates these are. I mean, the living vertebrates I am talking about. If you have some detailed account, some are extincted already from this jawless vertebrate. But the living, the first jawless vertebrates which we're discussing now are Cyclostomata members. Cyclo means circular, stomium means mouth. They have a circular sucking mouth. That's the reason why they're named as Cyclostomata members. And no doubt these Cyclostomata members, some are ectoparasites. They live outside the fish's body and they depend upon the fishes and suck the blood. They are ectoparasites on fishes. And elongated body they have. You can see that picture over there. They have an elongated body and they have 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits. That's important. They have 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits are present in the members. You know well, gill slits is the property of the chordata members. But the number here is 6 to 15. And the scales and the paired fins are absent. Their body is devoid of scales. No scales, no paired fins. Generally, the paired appendages is seen in the members of vertebrata. But in these Cyclostomata members, no scales, no paired fins. Moving on to the next one here, their body is regarding the cartilaginous, cranium and vertebral column. As they are vertebrates, they have vertebral column. The vertebral column and the cranium is made up of with cartilage. They have cartilaginous cranium and vertebral column. Moving on to their circulatory system, they have a closed type of circulatory system. The blood flows in the closed vessels of different dimensions like arteries, veins and capillaries. Moving on to the interested point over here. Though they are marine, they live in the salt waters, I mean the marine, some of the members whom that is example like Petromyzon, lamprey, they migrate to the fresh waters. And for what purpose? Not for the visiting purpose or as it felt boredom of living. They want to move. For what purpose they are moving to the fresh waters? The reason for that is for spawning, for breeding purpose. The Petromyzon, the lamprey, all along the way from the salt water, from the oceans or seas, it moves to the fresh waters in order to spawn or breed. And after this breeding, after once they spawn, after the release, the adult will die. And so we can say that it breed only once in their lifetime. It breed only once. After breeding, it will die. And that larva in that fresh water, they gets metamorphosized and they come back again to their original habitat, that is ocean. So why we had specified here AFMC, Armed Force Medical College. Every NEET aspirant is well known about this AFMC colleges of Pune. Based on this AFMC, we can go with this type of migration over here. This is also useful in other chapters for you. If they migrate from marine to fresh water, we call it as anadromous migration. If they migrate from fresh water to marine waters, it's called as catadromous migration. So our Petromyzon, the lamprey, as its original habitat is the marine waters, but it's migrating from the marine water to fresh water for breeding purpose. So it shows what type of migration money? Anadromous migration. And it is a ectoparasite on fishes too. It's a sanguivorous, blood sucking. Another example, mixin, the hagfish. So circular sucking mouth with 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits and the cartilaginous, the cranium and the vertebral column. And one more interesting feature of the Cyclostomata members, here we can say that there is a special venous system is present generally in between the kidneys and the lower parts of the body. But that is also absent in the members of cyclostomes. Ma'am, what's that? There's a renal portal system. The special venous system between the kidneys and the lower parts of the body, that is renal portal system, is absent in the members of cyclostomes and also in the mammals. That will specify there. So these are the special features of the class Cyclostomata under the subphylum Vertebrata and the division Aenata. In the classification of the subphylum Vertebrata or Craniata, you can come across the two divisions, Aenata and Gnathostomata. Already we finished the Aenata, that is Cyclostomata members under this Aenata division as a class. Moving on to Gnathostomata members, the jarred vertebrates. Aenata, jawless vertebrates. Gnathostomata, the jarred vertebrates. Under this Gnathostomata, the jarred vertebrates, we will come across the two superclasses over there. So those are Pisces and the Tetrapoda. Pisces, the fishes. Under the fishes, you will come across the two classes, the Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Under the Tetrapoda, the classes like Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. All these are tetrapods, quadrupedal animals, the four-limbed animals. Whereas the fishes also have a paired fins, but they are called as just as a Pisces, the fishes. The Pisces or fishes are familiar for their bewildering numbers. Majority of the vertebrate group are Pisces. Fishes are the major representatives under the subphylum Vertebrata. Class Chondrichthyes, the Pisces, the fishes. Based on their endoskeleton, the Pisces are grouped into the two, the cartilaginous fishes and the bony fishes. Chondra meaning cartilage, ichthyes means fishes. The study of fishes is called as ichthyology. These are cartilaginous fishes. Chondrichthyes are the cartilaginous fishes. These are. In this class Chondrichthyes, these are marine animals. They are exclusively marine. You cannot come across the cartilaginous fishes in the fresh waters. And their endoskeleton as is made up of with cartilage, we are specifying them as a Chondrichthyes. And they have a streamlined body. You can see in the pictures, they have a streamlined body. The good example for this is a shark. Just recollect, just memorize this fish shark. They have a streamlined body. With the mouth is located on the ventral side. If you see this, obviously you can come across these and this. The mouth is located on the ventral side. Here it is. Ventrally located mouth. And they have a persistent notochord. Notochord is persistent throughout the life. It is also one of the key feature of this class Chondrichthyes. So it's very important in the competitive examinations. So persistent notochord is seen in the members of cephalochordata, which we refer them as the typical chordates, and also in the members of this Chondrichthyes, the persistent notochord. Moving on to the next here, the gill slits are naked. What it means? They have a gill slits which are seen like this. The gill slits are seen outside. They have naked gill slits. Why the term naked? Because they are not covered by operculum. There is no covering this gill slits. Gill slits are seen. They are seen outside. That's why we are calling it as a naked, without any covering. So naked gill slits without covering, and because of the absence of this operculum. Moving on to the next. The skin of this Chondrichthyes fishes is rough, though it appears to be like a without any scales, but skin is rough and is covered with placoid scales. These are the microscopic scales which we cannot see like a scales as you can see in the bony fishes. but skin is rough because of the presence of these placoid scales. And it is a characteristic feature of chondrichthyes. You cannot come across these scales anywhere else. And regarding this other phenomenon, the teeth are the modifications of placoid scales and they are directed backwards. Teeth are the modified placoid scales and they are directed backwards and they are highly predaceous animals. You can see in some movies and all, they have a high olfactory sense also. Sharks can sense if any bleed happens, if the blood oozes out, with the help of the sense of that smell, it comes and attacks. They are highly predaceous. These are the carnivorous and highly predaceous fishes because the teeth are, they're very highly powerful jaws. The teeth are very sharp and they show the predaceous nature. So their teeth will helpful for the predaceous nature, which are the modified placoid scales. And air bladder is absent. No air bladder. As air bladder is absent, air bladder is helpful for buoyancy, the balancing of the body. As air bladder is absent, the balancing organ, the buoyancy organ, it need to swim continuously in order to prevent them from drowning. It will sink if it won't swim continuously. It's because of the absence of air bladder. Moving on to the heart is of two-chambered heart in these fishes, not only in the chondrichthyes members. In the fishes, the heart is two-chambered. One is atria and one ventricle. And one more thing I would like to say, as though it looks to be silly, but all the fishes are aquatic. No fish you can see on the land. Though we discuss, all the fishes are aquatic. Maybe some are marine, some are seen in the fresh waters and some are seen in the brackish waters. But all are aquatic and they are poikilothermic animals. What this poikilotherms? Poikilo means various, therms means temperature. I am writing here the terminology, poikilothermic, poikilotherms. What is this poikilo? Poikilo means various, therms means temperature. The body temperature varies according to their surrounding temperature. They are cold-blooded animals. All the fishes are aquatic and poikilotherms, the cold-blooded animals these are. Moving on to the next point, in the members of chondrichthyes, in some of the member like torpedo, it's commonly called as electric ray. In chondrichthyes, the shark's rays are included under this. So, the electric ray is torpedo, in which the electric organs are the modified forms of the dorsal muscles. The dorsal muscles modified into electrical organs. So, it's called as electric ray. Stingray, the trigon, in which a sting is present, hence we specify as a stingray. The trigon is a good example for it. And the sexes are separate. You can see the male shark and the female shark and the male ray and the female ray as usual. In males especially, near the pelvic fins, these are the pelvic fins you can see in the picture. Near the pelvic fins, on either side of this cloaca, you can come across a pair of copulatory organs called as claspers. Claspers are the copulatory organs and these are seen in the males which facilitate the internal fertilization. In chondrichthyes is internal fertilization. Why is internal? Because of the presence of claspers. Where it is located near the pelvic fins on either side of the cloaca. Moving on, as I said, this facilitating the internal fertilization. Coming to this, they are viviparous. They give birth to the young ones. They are viviparous. Internal fertilization, viviparous. Moving on to examples, Scoliodon. Scoliodon is commonly called as dogfish. It's a common shark which is used by the biology students for dissection purpose. It's a common shark which we'll use. Prestes, the sawfish which we can see in the picture, the prestes, the sawfish, it have a saw-like structure, hence is called as a sawfish. Carcharodon, which is a great white shark. So the examples along with the torpedo and the trigon, torpedo the electric ray, trigon the stingray, and the scoliodon the dogfish, Pristis the sawfish, and Carcharodon the great white shark. What are the points to be highlighted here, which is to be stressed and which is needed to be remembered? In cartilaginous fishes, the Chondrichthyes, their endoskeleton is cartilage, and air bladder is absent, so they need to swim continuously in order to prevent themselves of sinking, drowning down, and they have a claspers which facilitate the internal fertilization. So these are the main points which we can highlight here. The points to be highlighted in the Chondrichthyes is, as we said, they have a cartilaginous endoskeleton, and notochord is persistent. Notochord is persistent in the member of Cephalochordata and in Chondrichthyes, and naked gill slits, and as usual we said that they have a claspers which facilitate the internal fertilization, and they are viviparous. So these are the points to be, you should recollect whenever it strikes your brain, the Chondrichthyes. Next class of the superclass Pisces, the fishes. Osteichthyes. Osteo money, bone. Ichthys means fishes. These are the bony fishes. As we said, the cartilaginous fishes are seen only in marine waters, but bony fishes are seen in fresh waters, marine waters, and also in the brackish waters. They are seen in all the aquatic media. And the major representatives of the Pisces are the bony fishes. And like the same points like the cartilaginous fishes, their body is streamlined, and they are cold-blooded animals, poikilothermic or cold-blooded animals. They cannot maintain their body temperature constant. As they have bony endoskeleton, we are referring it as Osteichthyes members, and these are marine, the freshwater, and even the brackish water. And the mouth is the terminal, mouth is seen. Mouth is terminal. We'll go later some differences between the Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Let me finish off this bony fishes characteristic features. So these have the terminal mouth, and they have 4 pairs of gills, and these are all the fins, guys. These are the fins actually, and they have a paired fins. I hope you know all the vertebrates have a paired fins, and the paired fins are absent in the vertebrates are the Cyclostomata members. In the Cyclostomata, the paired fins are absent. Apart from this, in all the vertebrates, the paired fins are present. So they have a paired fins, and they have 4 pairs of gills, and gills are covered by operculum. It's not naked, it's covered, as operculum is present in these members. And coming to their skin is covered by the scales. You are observing the scales are clearly visible in the bony fishes, but not in the cartilaginous fishes, as they are smaller, microscopic. And these fishes contain the cycloid or ctenoid scales as their exoskeleton, covering of their body. Exoskeleton is made up of is constituted by either cycloid scales or ctenoid scales. Based on their shape, they call like cycloid, they have circular, ctenoid, they have like comb-like things on the surface. I mean, they have a rough surface above. Ctenoid scales. Okay. Air bladder. Air bladder is present, so they need not to swim continuously, because this organ is meant for buoyancy, the balancing. So they can remain in a still position for a while. Then also there is no chance for them sinking because of air bladder. It maintains the balance. Moving on to their reproductive part, the sexes are separate, dioecious. From now onwards, is taken into granted this point also. As we move on to the higher evolutionary phyla and classes, they are dioecious. Their sexes are separate in them. And fertilization is external fertilization. The gametes fuse in the water, and they are mostly oviparous. It is saying that some are viviparous. They are mostly oviparous. And the development is direct without any larval stages. Moving on to this, examples of this Osteichthyes members. Marine exocetus, flying fish is called as. Its pectoral fins, these are called as pectoral fins. Here you can see the pectoral fins. These will act like a gliders so that it can fly. Flying means just it leaps. And hippocampus, you can see the picture, hippocampus there is a sea horse. Is a sea horse. This is the only fish which swims vertically. All the fishes swims like this horizontally, but this fish swims vertically. You can see with the prehensile tail, I mean the folded tail, curved tail, and how this appearing, this sea horse, hippocampus. Freshwater fishes, labio is called as a rohu. Cutla is commonly called as cutla. These are the most common freshwater edible fishes, means which are used as a food. Clarius, magur, is very important. Is clarius, which is also called as a catfish, is have a long whiskers and is called as magur. Why is specified is very particularly. In majority of the examinations it had been asked which of the fishes are commonly called as magur. Is a clarius, is a catfish which is devoid of the scales. Moving on to the aquarium fishes, which are very fond of this aquarium. So betta is a fighting fish, and pterophyllum is a angel fish. Angels are generally is white in color, as an angel fish. So these are the examples of Osteichthyes. Before going to wind up this, let's move on to the highlightings of this Osteichthyes, that is bony fishes. Bony endoskeleton, operculum is present, mouth is terminal, fertilization is external. These are the points to be highlighted. Here it is. And the next phenomenon, let's have a glance look between the comparison or differences between Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Let's have a look. Chondrichthyes, cartilaginous endoskeleton. Osteichthyes, bony endoskeleton. Cartilaginous are seen in the marine waters. I mean, they're seen in only exclusively marine. Here, marine freshwater. Mouth is ventral, mouth is terminal. They have placoid scales here, they have cycloid or ctenoid scales they have. And in them here, they don't have operculum. Gill slits are naked, operculum is absent. Here, gill slits are not naked, operculum is present. Here it is. And after the scales like placoid, cycloid and ctenoid scales, if you talk about the case of the next thing, regarding the case of their air bladder. Air bladder is absent in Chondrichthyes and is present in the case of these members of Osteichthyes for bio-NC phenomenon. And claspers are present, claspers are absent. Fertilization is internal, fertilization is external. Viviparous, mostly oviparous. These are the main differences, major differences between the Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes fishes. Next class, Amphibia. Amphi means dual, or you can say it's both, bios money life. Amphibians can survive both on the land and also in the water. These are the first vertebrate to step onto the land, but they are not called to be the true terrestrial vertebrates because they can't lay their eggs on the land. They still breed in the water. Though they are stepped onto the land for the first time, they are not supposed to call as a true terrestrial vertebrates. They lead a dual life here. In the Gnathostomata, the division, the tetrapodons, the superclass tetrapoda, in that amphibians are the earliest tetrapodons, the first quadrupedal animals with two pairs of limbs. They have 4 limbs, tetrapods these are. Coming to their habitat, as I said, they are aquatic and terrestrial and quadrupedal animals, and their body divisions, the body is divided into head and trunk. No neck is seen. Even in the fishes and also in the amphibians, you can't find the neck. There is no demarcation of the neck. Neck is an obstacle for swimming. Neck is not seen in the fishes and not seen in amphibians. In some of the amphibians, the tail persists throughout the life, but in majority will consider the head and trunk. Moving on to their body. The skin is always moist. Whenever it feels like it's drying up, it jumps into the water. If you see the frog, whenever the skin dries up, it frequently, in order to make it moist, it frequently jumps into the water. And the skin is scaleless, no scales, no exoskeleton is seen in the class Amphibia. Eyelids are present. If you talk about the frog, you know the upper eyelid is fused and lower eyelid is mobile. Eyelids are seen from the class Amphibia onwards. You won't find the eyelids in the class Pisces, fishes. Tympanum is present behind the eye, which represents the ear. Okay, next, moving on to the point of cloaca. What is cloaca? In a simple terminology, we can say is a urinogenital aperture. It is as a urinogenital aperture. What are the ones opens into it? The alimentary canal, the gut opens into this cloaca, and even this urinary system, urinary tubes, and the reproductive system. The gut, the reproductive ducts, the alimentary canal, that is a gut, what I am saying, and reproductive ducts and the urinary ducts, which opens into the cloaca, and cloaca opens out to exterior, is a urinogenital aperture in simple terminology. Moving on to the respiration, as we said that it can live both on the land and in the water. It have the diversified respiratory organs in order to use in different habitats. Gills. It show branchial respiration. If it respires through gills, we'll call it as branchial respiration. So, as I said, that still breathe in water. So, the larval forms, the young ones, as they remain in the water, they need the gills in order to show this aquatic mode of respiration, that is branchial. Lungs. The respiration through lungs is referred as pulmonary respiration, and when they step onto the land, they use lungs as their respiratory organs. Skin. Skin is the major respiratory organ in the members of Amphibia, and the respiration through skin is called as cutaneous respiration, and it uses the skin both in the water and also on the land. Is a major respiratory organ in the members of amphibians. As is a major, if it dries up, there is no chance of exchange of gases, so it need to keep its skin always moist. If skin dries up, it dies. Moving on to next point regarding its heart. The heart of amphibians is three-chambered heart. It have a two atria, the right atria and the left atria, and a single ventricle. Is a three-chambered heart. In fishes is two-chambered, and in amphibians is three-chambered. So whenever a topic comes, I am comparing with the case of the previous classes and the phyla that's needed, and they are cold-blooded animals. Like fishes, these are also cold-blooded, poikilotherms. They cannot maintain their body temperature constant. It varies according to their surrounding environment. Dioecious they are, sexes are separate. There is male and the female animals, and the fertilization is external fertilization. Just recollect the frog. So, as you move on to the other chapter, the structural organization, there you will come across the detailed account of the frog. So, you'll feel very easy about this features of Amphibia by studying the frog. And they are oviparous, egg-laying, and indirect development. They pass through the larval stage. All of you know pretty well from your childhood, you keeps on discussing, you have learned that the larva of frog is the tadpole larva. Even I said in the case of Eurochordata members also, there also the larva is called as tadpole. But whenever the tadpole strikes in your, whenever it comes, the frog strikes in your brain. So here the tadpole larva. Moving on to the examples. Bufo. Bufo is called as a toad. What is this toad actually? What is this toad? Toad is the different and the frog is different. Actually speaking, the frog is different. Bufo is a toad and rana is a frog. The bufo, toad and the rana frog, I would like to share a few features which you can easily identify which is a frog and which is a toad. Frogs smooth the skin And toad skin is somewhat bumpy skin, you can see that, warty, bumpy skin you can come across. And frog skin is smooth and it will always moist, but toad skin is somewhat dry. And as it want to keep its skin moist, you can see the frogs, the nearby waters. But toads, they can move farther away from the water bodies. And even the eyes are bulged in the case of the frogs, and whereas in the toads, the eyes are supple. So these are some of the major differences you can find out. You can easily sort out which is a frog and which is a toad. If you see the nearby water bodies moving as a frog, as a far away from this as a toad, is more than enough about it. Hyla, the tree frog, is a green in color which blends with its environment, with its tree, is a green color, the hyla, the tree frog. And salamandra are salamanders. It looks like a lizard-like body, but these are amphibians, but looks like a lizard body. And ichthyophis is a limbless amphibian. They don't have a limbs. Though I said amphibians are the quadrupedal animals, they have tetrapods, they bear limbs, they possess 4 limbs, but these are the limbless amphibians. Is also one of the familiar question is likely to be expected. The limbless amphibian, ichthyophis. So the bufo toad, the frog is a rana, and salamander, hyla, the tree frog, ichthyophis is a limbless amphibian. No need to stress much about these features of this class Amphibia, because as I said just now, in frog you'll get the detailed account.